Tarr for another episode of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is episode number 113, being recorded on Monday, May 27th, 2024 at 2:34 p.m. I hope you all have had a really eventful year so far. We're getting into the halfway point of the year. About June time, some people like to go to the end of June or the end of May to kind of put up their halfway point, but it's a proper time to evaluate what we've accomplished so far this year, what we hope to accomplish for the rest of the year. You know, people talk about their New Year's resolutions, and, you know, more times than not, they probably don't follow through with it, whether it's going to the gym or learning a new language or anything of the sort, working on their art. Usually at some point, fairly early on, they go, well, I'll always come back to it, you know, and that's their right, that's their prerogative, but we want to use our time to really kind of pursue our endeavors, our artistic endeavors, our personal endeavors, and really just kind of be very focused and steadfast with what we have to do on that, because it's very easy to kind of put things off and then never go back to them and then wonder why others have accomplished more than you have, because ultimately it's not a race. You must focus on your own work. You can't sit back and go, this person's made 20 films, I've made nothing. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. What is the one you're going to make? That is the proper focus of this. Or this person's written 20 novels, or this person has, can play 20 guitar solos, anything like that. You must focus on yourself. You must go at your own pace, but most importantly, you must be persistent in your goals. Whatever that may be, that's completely your prerogative, and that's only for you to find out what it is you actually want to achieve in this life. And we all must decide what it is, and we must be focused on that. Today is Memorial Day as well, so we raise our glasses, we raise our drinks, whatever of the sort, to those who are no longer with us, who have given their lives, the brave men and women. We say thank you, we honor you in our hearts and our souls, and your legacies will forever live on through us, through your loved ones, through us all. And we say thank you for that. I'll have a sip of this right here. And it's a wonderful day out. It's been raining for the first part of the day, and it's totally been cozy, man. I was watching a film earlier this morning. I had the cat right next to me, and I hear and see the rain outside. It's a cloudy overcast, and it's the total kind of feeling of just staying inside, of just not going anywhere. You know, people are so quick to kind of run out, and they must do, they must have this kind of constant stimulation of just, you know, going out and doing things, and that is their prerogative, and that's their right. But that ain't me, brother. I mean, if I'm in, I'm in for good, man. I have films to watch. Writing must be accomplished. Reading must be accomplished, man. You know, I'm not gonna be worried about just killing time for killing time. There's no such thing as free time, man. Time is time, and we must utilize it the way that we see fit to interact with people whom we choose to interact with. If you're in a situation where you are not enjoying the company of somebody else, you must get away from that as far as possible. Treat that like poison, man, because all it's going to do is just bring you down and bring your life down. It's just not worth wasting the time on that regard, man. It's completely ridiculous and completely pointless to even try to, conform to somebody else's idea of how they feel that you should live your life. You must live for yourself and live through kindness and caring of others, but ultimately being at the forefront of what it is you want to achieve. The Cannes Film Festival was this past weekend. It finally finished up, and it's been great seeing the talk of the films that have been getting awards. It was fantastic to see Sean Baker's new film, Enora, has come home with the Palme d'Or, which is just fantastic. I was seeing a lot of really positive reactions to Sean winning this award, and Sean Baker, of course, is the phenomenal filmmaker behind such recent films as Red Rocket and The Florida Project, as well as Tangerine, Starlet. He was the co-director of Takeout, which recently, in the past year, has gotten a Criterion release. An acquaintance of mine was very enthusiastic about that film, so that will be watched in due time. But it was just wonderful to see his newest work come home with the coveted Palme d'Or. That's just so great to see, man. Sean Baker, so when it comes to 21st century filmmakers, he's definitely one of the most interesting and one of the most unique voices out there. I'm not interested in any films or filmmakers who are interested in doing nostalgic films or throwbacks or emulating their filmmakers they enjoy. I see far too many homages that I have no interest in whatsoever. So a unique original voice like Sean Baker, who is continuing to make these terrific films and seemingly still continuing his streak, because this film has been getting very excellent reviews. So that'll be seen in due time. And I imagine that it'll probably get distributed by A24 since they distributed Red Rocket and The Florida Project. And Red Rocket, I've talked about on the show before. I think that's just one of my favorite films of the past decade. I think that film it's just front to back. There's not a second of fat on that thing. It is consistently funny. Simon Rex's performance, I mean, when I was watching that film, I was like, I could easily see this man getting nominated for an Academy Award because his performance is so pitch perfect. He's just this total narcissist, selfish kind of guy, but he is a smooth talker enough to get himself into these situations, and it's just such a fantastic film, and it's a film that makes you proud to be seeing these films, in a contemporary setting. Anytime anybody tells you they aren't making good films anymore, that's in one ear at the other. If you're only watching contemporary Hollywood spectacle films and you're surprised at the diminishing quality, that it should be time to properly reevaluate the situation. There are obnoxious Hollywood spectacle films will not be going anywhere anytime soon, but quality films will always be there. There has been no dip, in my opinion. I'm looking back, speaking of, in retrospect of the year so far, I'm looking at my films I've seen theatrically so far this year, and there's been many wonderful films. Many films that are made with hearts, that are made by actual people wanting to tell an interesting story, as well as I've seen many spectacle films that are just not very good and are not worth mentioning, so I will not mention them. But I think back to this year, and I think of so many wonderful films that I have seen. Now, many of these may be 2023, so can only say so much, but I'll just do a quick kind of run through here. Just a couple that I've seen theatrically this year that I think are worth mentioning very briefly. Hirokazu Koreeda's new film, Monster, as well as Frederick Wiseman's new film, Menu Plaisir, L'Etre Gras, which is another wonderful documentary from the great documentary master, Frederick Wiseman. Of course, the Vendors had two wonderful films this year, Perfect Days, as well as the documentary Anselm, both of which, Perfect Days is coming to Criterion in July. That'll be picked up, and Anselm is getting a Janus Films Blu-ray. Those will both definitely be picked up, and if you have a 3D TV, I think to my knowledge, the Anselm Blu-ray will be 3D compatible, which is great. That's a film that was shot in 3D, and when watching it, it definitely feels with the sword. A lot of the panning shots forward and back really kind of give what I imagine is to give perspective. I imagine that the perspective would look much better in 3D, I should say. The Monk and the Gun, which is a film that I still have not heard anyone talking about, which is unfortunate. I think it might be my favorite film of the year so far. And it's hard to pick favorites. Films have to sit with you. It's completely ridiculous to try to analyze something that you just saw. You have to kind of let it sit with you and really kind of let it sit in your membrane and your subconscious. But that's one that so far has not been topped. The film Totem by director Lila Aviles, if I said that correctly, which reminds me of another film that I saw this year, which is also one of the strongest, which is the film Shada, directed by Noura Niyarsari, which is an Iranian film. Great two films following the plights of these young girls and the complicated relationships that their parents are having. Totem is more following the little girl, whereas Shada is following a woman trying to get out of a bad situation with her ex-husband. Both terrific films. La Camera, sorry. Also a possible contender for my favorite film I've seen this year, starring the great Josh O'Connor, who's been having a really fantastic year. He's the star of this, and he was just in the new film Challengers, which he was excellent both, but here he's great, directed by Alice Rohrwacher. I don't even know why I'm trying to say these names. I'm mispronouncing all of them, but this is actually coming to Blu-ray soon. It might even be available on VOD now, so it's definitely worth your time. As well as Ken Loach's final film, The Old Oak, also fantastic. I been meaning to watch it with the talk of the Palme d'Or winners. I forgot that he had won for I, Daniel Blake in 2013, so that will definitely be watched. But the last film of his that I saw from 2018, I think it was 2018, which was Sorry We Missed You, was really excellent. That felt like, that was Ken Loach at one of his strongest. I also mentioned that feeling that the time for doing something has passed, I talked about recently. And I just recently saw Ryozuki Hamaguchi's new film, Evil Does Not Exist, and what a wonderful, wonderful film. He is truly becoming one of my favorite filmmakers right now. I've only seen a couple of his works, but they've all been excellent. Of course, he did Drive My Car, which, in retrospect, may have actually made my top 10 of favorite films of 2021. I really, really love that film. And then he did Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy the same year, which is a great episodic story, a couple different stories in there. And then he also did, the last of which I've seen is Asaka 1 and 2 from 2018. I find him to be such a talented writer-director, and Evil Does Not Exist is no exception. There are great character complexities in this. There are great long takes of either overwhelming score that will hard cut into the quiet sort of setting of nature and the animals around and the environment around them, into these great kind of dialogue sequences. There's a great sequence early on, probably actually more so early on, when it's these two, I won't get into the plot or anything like that, but it's these two kind of outsiders coming in to give this meeting in the town of something that they want to set up, and the discrepancies of the townspeople. It's so great, and the ending as well has been the talk. I've seen a lot of people kind of talk about the ending. It's a lot of discussion on that front, and I think the ending is, it goes for, I think actually it ties up the film very well in terms of the very opening of the film and then the very ending of the film, which I think is great, and there's a lot to draw from there. But don't be sleeping on his work. He is a phenomenal filmmaker, and he will definitely be on the radar now. Like, so I'm talking about before, when you have these kind of contemporary filmmakers. Now, I think that he may have, I don't know when his first film was, so he may not even be 21st century, so I don't want to just completely group him in there, but I just look at filmmakers like Sean Baker and him and S. Craig Zahler, who just recently announced he's going to be doing his fourth film, which was excellent. S. Craig Zahler is just one of the great voices of our time. 3 knockout films, and I just, I'll be there the first chance I get for his next film. Really looking forward to that. And it's funny, I was looking before at the previous Palme d'Or winners, and Anora is the first American film since The Tree of Life in 2011, the brilliant film by Terrence Malick, to win the Palme d'Or. And I was just looking at curiously what of the recent ones were. So in 2023, we had Anatomy of a Fall, which I've seen. 2022, we have Triangle of Sadness, which I've seen. 2021, we have Titane, which I've seen. 2019, didn't have it in 2020. 2019 was Parasite, which I've seen. 2018 was Shoplifters, which I've seen. 2017 was The Square, which I've seen. And then 2016 is where... I'm sorry, did I say I, Daniel Blake was 2013? That was incorrect. It was actually 2016. I have not seen that. These 3 films I've not seen: I, Daniel Blake, Deepan, and Winter Sleep, all of which will be seen in due time. And then back 2013 was Blue is the Warmest Color, which I've seen. And by that director's second film has still not come out. I know there was some controversy behind it, but that film is still not released. What the hell was that called? It was... Mektub My Love, Kanto Uno. Yeah, this was done in like 2017. I know it didn't get a good response. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, man. But either way, that won 2013. Amour, the great Michael Haneke film. Haneke won 2012, Tree of Life 2011, Masterpiece 2010 was Uncle Boonmee, who can recall his past lives, by I Picked Upon Veracutical, great film. And then I'm not going to go back from there, but then we have White Ribbon, The Class, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, The Wind That Shakes Barely, also Ken Loach, La Font, Fahrenheit 9/11, Elephant, The Pianist, The Sun's Rim, and Dance from the Dark. I've actually seen almost all of these. I think the only ones I haven't seen are Fahrenheit 9/11, La Font, which I actually do have that. Funny enough, I bought that film not even knowing that it won the Palme d'Or. The One That Shakes Barely, The Class, and The White Ribbon, which I also have not seen. I actually have that on Blu-ray. That was a gift, but I have not seen that yet. That's one of the last Michael Haneke films I need to watch. Actually, that... the one film in that Criterion Collection set that I am blanking on the name of right now. But either way, I like all of the films I've mentioned. So, I mean, Anatomy of a Fall, Triangle of Sadness, Titane, Parasite, Shoplifters, The Square, Blue is the Warmest Color, Amour, Tree of Life, Uncle Boonmee. I mean, these are all good films. Some I like more than others, of course. But so Anora will be seen at the earliest convenience. So that is really, really fantastic. That's just so great to see Sean Baker be getting kind of put on this level. He's a consistent filmmaker, he's a quality filmmaker, and I look forward to seeing his film. I don't get excited for any film. That's just a ridiculous thing to be. I have no expectations for any film that I walk into, whether it's good or it's bad. I have my own opinion on these films, and I'm not influenced by any kind of outside source. I just saw a film recently that's I won't go into, but it's undeniably the worst film I've seen this year, and it has a very high Rotten Tomatoes score. So that doesn't influence me at all. It was just not worth mentioning. But I think it's important to kind of not let these outside sort of resources sort of dictate your opinion on it. So I do confidently feel that people are oftentimes psychologically peer pressured into these opinions, whether or not they actually feel that way or not. A lot of the same sentiments and a lot of the same points I often hear echoed, whether or not you heard it at all previously. There's just so many films where a lot of the same points end up being brought up, not because of a general sort of obvious sort of statement to say, but it's very very shallow sort of thing to say in regards of well, anyways, that's a whole other conversation right there. That's not worth getting into. But yeah, plenty of solid films to be seen at due time. Of course, Francis Ford Coppola's new film, Megalopolis, will be seen when available. It's been getting a very interesting word of mouth, very divisive opinions, but it's Coppola, so it will be seen in due time. This heat is gnarly as hell, man. Gotta make sure you're still drinking your water. You actually see the condensation on the edge of the cup here. It's wild as all hell. Make sure you guys have a dehumidifier running. You want to get that moisture out of the air. Make sure you have water on hand at all times. It's fine to drink cola or beer or coffee or tea or juice or anything like that, but water is the priority, man. Especially if you're waking up in the morning, you're like, I'm so tired, man. Well, before you get your hot coffee or hot tea, you're gonna want to get yourself a nice glass of water. It really kind of wake you up, get the blood flowing in the veins, and really get yourself going. But with that said, speaking of wonderful filmmakers, we've mentioned many wonderful filmmakers just in the conversation alone, from the great works of Sean Baker to Ryusuke Yamaguchi to picked up on Verasuitical. All these just wonderful, wonderful filmmakers. Let's talk about one of the best filmmakers, one of my favorite filmmakers. I'm talking about Bela Tarr. I watched a documentary that, now here's the wild thing is that, so I went to go watch this documentary. It's this documentary from 2013 called Tarr Bela. I used to be a filmmaker. All about the making of his, at this time, last narrative feature film, which is the Turin Horse from 2011. And so it said it was available on Mubi. Mubi is a wonderful streaming service. I cannot recommend enough. If you are a film fan, you must be aware of Mubi. And if you can't afford it, of course, we all have different financial situations and backgrounds, but it's important to write these films down, that when they are available outside, you are able to watch. I was talking about before, maybe I hadn't talked about it on the show, one of the last things I watched in 2023, just as sort of in terms of a contemporary film, was Rotting in the Sun, which is one that I saw they were promoting, and I had no expectations for it. I just figured, okay, it's about 90 minutes. We'll see what this is. And it ended up being one of my very favorites of the year. It's just such a wonderful, comedic, dark film that completely took me by surprise. And I say by surprise, I mean, you have no expectations. There's nothing to take you by surprise of. But in terms of how much I enjoyed it and how funny it was. And I mean, I'm watching these films by myself. So if I'm laughing out loud by myself, that's a true testament then kind of falling in line with the peer pressure and energy of an audience to see us with. But it said this film was available on there, and I go on there, and it wasn't. And I said, okay, what's going on? So I check again, and it said that it's only available on Mubi through Amazon, which is bizarre. I don't know how the rights would be different through Amazon, but if you are interested in watching this film, and you have Mubi, it is, at the time of recording this, not on there. It's only through Mubi on Amazon. But I did find this on YouTube with subtitles, and that was excellent. This is a smaller kind of documentary. It's far more of just a fly-on-the-wall documentary following Bela Tarr and his, I think it's his wife and filmmaking partner, Agnes Hranitsky. It's always important, and I've made this mistake before, so I'm as guilty of it when I go to credit Bela Tarr as a director. Sometimes it is a co-director. So she has co-directed Werkmeister Harmonies with him, as well as The Man from London, which I don't think I've seen. I think that's the one with Tilda Swinton. Yes, I have not seen this one yet, but it will be seen in or maybe I have seen. There's one film either by Bela Tarr or Picked Up on Pharmaceutical that I thought I didn't see and then I actually had. So let me actually check right now because I would have logged it. No, I have not seen this one. Okay. Fantastic. So I can watch this film completely fresh. Anyways, she also co-directed Turin Horse with him. And the Turin Horse, I've said before, is one of his strongest films. I have yet to see anything I don't like by him. It's a brilliant film, and the thing with Bela Tarr, that what makes this documentary so fascinating is that from his work, whether these characters are completely isolated or in something close to a social sort of city kind of area, there is this great sense, this film especially, I would say even more so than something like Satan Tango, of true isolation, because you follow these two characters. And actually, speaking of Satan Tango, you have Eric Bock, who was the young girl in Satan Tango in the segment in the middle of the film with her and the cat, which is in part. Well, I'm thinking of the second disc, but I don't know whatever part it was. But that's one of the best entire segments of the film. Goes on for about 40 minutes or so, about probably actually longer than that, probably an hour and a half at least. But anyway, she's in the film as well. And so the documentary, it looks at... Well, I'm sorry, what I was saying before is that because he's able to create these really isolated settings of, long kind of shots, not in terms of, time, but in terms of like these long angle kind of shots, you just see this open field and this fog is just over encompassing, man. I mean, it's like you can't see out in the distance, but it's great seeing this film and to see the filmmaking process behind a lot of it, how he directs the actors, how he gets these. If you remember in, I guess really in all of his films that I've seen at least, that you have a lot of like very violent winds where it's almost dangerous to go outside. If you remember a lot of the longer sequences in Werkmeister Harmonies and Satan Tango of these characters just walking, truly showing the long distances they have to walk, being so cut off from one another, and these violent winds that are really just kind of thrashing through them. And it's great because they have one part in the documentary, they show a helicopter flying right above. I mean, the actor's name I'll get up right here because I might butcher, but I'll try to say it. Janos Dierpschi, who plays his character Ulsdorfer, and she plays his daughter as well in the film, Erica Bock. But we just see his filmmaking process. It's less. It's got some interviews in the documentary. It does talk to Erica Bock at one point, and she actually had a really great kind of moment where she talks about being adopted and how she Bela Tarr really just meant a lot to her, and she had a good time when they were filming Satan Tango, and he was just very kind to her, and it's just and it's funny because you look at these very nihilistic films, and then you have just these, you hear about the production stories with them being something else entirely. You think of like the production of on Salo and all the fun that the teenagers had working on that film and stuff, and then you watch the film and it's horrific and it's disturbing and it's also a brilliant film as well. It's one of Pasolini's best, and I've always said it's always kind of a shame that because he died very shortly after, and because that is his most extreme film, that I do often feel like it has kind of overshadowed his other work, and that's just a real shame, because I've seen a handful of Pasolini's work, and he's a brilliant filmmaker, and Salo is a brilliant film in my opinion, but I do often feel like when people talk about Pasolini, they often always jump to Salo instead of some of his other really excellent work. I do recommend picking up that Trilogy of Life box set from Criterion, and of course they have that box set as well with most of his work in there. Many great films in there that I have not picked up yet, but if you're interested in the work of Bela Tarr, this is less informative about his filmmaking process. He talks to the camera less, more so just kind of being on set of the Turin Horse, filming these very long sequences, how he wants just certain the actors to act in the frame, how he's getting older, so it's definitely a lot of times where he's getting a lot of suggestions from a lot of the crew and all that, or the crew about where to place the camera and such. And the Turin Horse, especially, I think I'd recommend watching that film first before this, so you at least get the sense of the mood and the atmosphere And then you watch this, and you can definitely see the manipulation in there of just having these really violent winds and these sort of really kind of isolated sequences. Because then they'll, I mean, I don't know how far they actually are from the rest of Hungary, but at least in here, I mean, all of his work feels otherworldly. That's what I'm saying before, is that even in Werkmeister Harmonies, when you have, I mean, this town kind of setting, they still feel so cut off from the rest of the world. I mean, Saint Tango especially, that feels like there is this small community, but it is so cut off. It's almost like on a different planet, and it's just so minimal, but does so much. And I should also say that with the Turin Horse, it was also co-written by Laszlo Krasnerhocky. Krasnarkai. I don't think I said that right. But he also wrote Damnation, Saint Tango, Werkmeister Harmonies, Man from London. So for Bela Tarr fans, this is absolutely worth watching. It kind of, I haven't seen this documentary yet, but it does remind me a little bit, in terms of from what I've heard, about the documentary, directed by, what the hell is her name? It was Liv Korfixen, which follows Nicholas Winding Refn directing Only God Forgives. During the production and release of this movie, Only God Forgives, and which I think is a shorter documentary, about only an hour or so. But I've been really wanting to watch that. That's a film. It's a film that I have said since it released that I think this is going to take a while for people to connect with. It's a film that I really, really like, and I was reading Justin the Liberty's review of it, Justin the Liberty from Vinegar Syndrome, and he had a really excellent point that I completely agree with, is that he talked about, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, so I would recommend going to his letterbox and reading his blurb about it, but he was saying that the goodwill that Refn had from the audience, he's coming off of Drive from 2011, which was a pretty unanimously praised film. It's a film that I love, but by going in a completely, maybe not completely, but definitely going in a far more existential direction, surreal at times, just doing something very different. A lot of people at the time were very kind of perplexed by this film, and I think because maybe they were expecting something similar to Drive, and it does have those moments of these elongated sequences without dialogue, but I do think that Drive is a good balance between the mainstream and the art house. It's a good bridge where people who are not maybe into this kind of film could still get something out of Drive, whereas Only God Forgives feels like it's between the score and maybe the trailer, it's not the film you think it is. I think it's an excellent film, but I do confidently feel that if The Neon Demon, which is also a great film, if that was his follow-up to Drive, I think that maybe this would have had a bit more, a bit of a different reaction. The Neon Demon does feel like that balance as well. It feels closer of that bridge like Drive is, but Only God Forgives. I saw that back in 2013 in theaters, and 11 years later, I'm still very high on the film, and I think that, I never finished watching his show, Too Old to Die Young, but I watched the first 2 episodes, which I really should just go back and finish that. I don't know why I didn't. I mean, I'm not a TV guy, but that was really, really great. I loved how, like, the first 2 episodes were so different from one another. The second episode is completely detached from the events of the first episode, because then it'll go into something else after that. It really all kind of leads up to this ending, which is great. But I've mentioned before, Refn, I think it's just one of the great filmmakers working. I have yet to see, I think I may have actually seen perhaps all but one of his films. I got a little bit of time left, so I'll run through this really quick, because I've seen a lot of his films. He directed Pusher, which I've seen, Bleeder, which I've not seen, Fear X I've seen, Pusher 2 I've seen, Pusher 3 I've seen, Bronson I've seen, Valhalla Rising I've seen, Drive I've seen, Only God Forgives I've seen, The Neon Demon I've seen, and then he had some other TV stuff. Like, I've heard some stuff about Copenhagen Cowboy, which I have not watched, so perhaps I will have to look more into that, but that is for another time. So that is all for today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Use your time wisely. Make sure you're working on your art. Do not let peer pressure from others who want to control your life and dictate how you spend your time control your time. Do not let the outside forces get in. You must stay strong, stay vigilant, and stay true to yourself and your art. All right, thank you guys. Have a great Memorial Day, and I will be back next time.